there were a couple of days that my Wi-Fi was out and cellular service. And so what if I needed to pay my mortgage and it didn't go through and I wouldn't know? This way, my agent would be able to step in.
Welcome back to the United States.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
We were both away.
Yes, where were you?
I was in England, walking through the Cotswolds.
That sounds nice.
A nice long trip that I've been wanting to do forever. What about you?
I was in Mexico.
Did you surf?
I did surf, or shredded as we called it.
That sounds more dangerous.
It was a little dangerous. The waves got a little big at certain times.
So because you're younger than me, you probably don't fear the same things that I do. But when I get on a plane, I think about what would happen to my kids. Do you see how I wrap that around with this?
Yeah.
But for real, because, and this happens, we've both had this situation with clients where they are going on a trip, they've been planning this trip for a while, they're excited, and then they realize, oh goodness, our estate planning documents are out of.
They need to name different agents than they had before, just in case something might happen to them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it hits them a couple of days or weeks before they're actually hopping on the plane, and that happened to me. So it's always good to kind of put yourself in the shoes of clients, because it's like we're all very empathetic, but the fact that I was getting on a plane made me realize that my financial power of attorney was out of date because it named my ex-spouse. And as we've talked about, under Georgia law, he would be predeceased in regard to estate planning. But then it made me think about whether the person next in line that I had, the next agent, was a good person. Because I didn't really think that through, because you're like, oh no, this person will be great. And then you don't necessarily think about the next in line. So.
Yeah, because they would essentially be your first choice because of the divorce.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, a couple of days before my trip, I was scrambling to get my documents done. And so it gave me, I was able to empathize better with our clients who need a rush job.
So you mentioned the financial power of attorney.
Yeah.
Why is that one in particular the one that came to your mind? What's so important about that document?
That one came to my mind because when I was going to a foreign country, and a week prior, I had had some issues with hacking. Someone hacked into into an account of mine. And so, of course, I went to doomsday, where I'm in a foreign country without access to any financial.
I remember we talked about this actually.
Yes, with just lockdown, couldn't get into my bank, all of that. So I feared for that, and then realized I would need someone in the States to actually be able to implement my estate, or to step in for me if I wasn't able to do that.
And this is a unique situation where you wouldn't be able to do that, not because of incapacity, but just because you didn't have access in a different country. Right. Which is something not everyone thinks of when they think of financial power of attorney.
True, exactly, good point. And so, so I realized, oh goodness, I don't know if my successor, my backup would be a good person. And so, but yeah, not even because of fraud, but just differing banking hours, just being, in a different time zone. Also, there were a couple of days that my Wi-Fi was out and cellular service. And so what if I needed to pay my mortgage and it didn't go through and I wouldn't know? This way, my agent would be able to step in.
Exactly.
So that was.
So you thought of your financial power of attorney.
Yeah.
I thought a little bit about my advance directive because I'm engaged, but I haven't actually done an advance directive yet.
Right.
So if anything happened to me and someone needed to make medical decisions, it would actually turn to my parents, not to my fiance.
Right.
Which, when you're staring at a wave that's about 6 feet high, you think about it a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. Is that what you thought? Like
just a little bit.
Surfing. You're like, oh. Wow, what if I didn't come back up from this wave? Okay.
Yeah, shows I've been doing this too much.
Exactly. It's like it infiltrates all aspects of our life. What's the best thing you think for a client who's in a similar situation to do?
I would say get both your financial power of attorney and your advance directive done before you go on your trip. That's my advice. If you've done them recently enough where you feel okay with them, that's great.
Yeah.
I actually have never done one because I'm just.
We're going to do that today.
We should do that, yeah.
I will help you do that this afternoon, so that at least if it's not your parents, you can name your fiance to make those decisions for you. So that's good. We'll put that on the agenda.
Yeah. So we talked about those two. I think there's one more that's important, especially if you have children.
Indeed. Yes.
Did you think about your will at all?
I did think about my will, and that was the one that I, because my children's father is present in their lives,
okay, yeah.
so he would automatically be their the guardian if anything happened to me. But I did think about it, and that's previously, before the trip. So that just like big life events happened, and then that was the divorce, obviously, for us. Then I redid our documents. So I just didn't get to the other, the other things that people don't always think about for estate planning, the ancillary documents, health and financial power. So
yeah.
But yeah.
So just to clarify, in a will, that's where you name your guardian of your children?
Yes.
And in your case, you were traveling alone, not without your husband?
Correct.
But if you are traveling with your husband, then you really should think about it, because if something happens to both of you at once, then whoever you've named as guardian would be in charge of your children.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's and actually and backups to them.
That too.
I had a client. She was getting on a plane for her. I think it was her 40th birthday, and she had named obviously her spouse, or her spouse would be the guardian, but she also named her aunt as guardian, and then I think it was her brother-in-law or something, and she got on a plane for her 40th birthday, and her family said, "Surprise, we're all going to Hawaii for your birthday."
They're all on the plane.
And then she panicked because she realized they were all on the plane, everyone she had already named. So it's good to just name another backup that you also trust. Granted, that doesn't always happen that often, but where you're all going on a plane. But, it's good to think through those things, especially when it regards children.
It is, especially having a diversity of the backups.
Yes, different ages.
Different
is
ages,
what we always recommend.
different family sides, friends maybe.
Yes.
All that.
Yes. It's good to think through all of those things. Things that you don't necessarily have to think about right now, but
soon enough. Okay, so we've touched on advanced directives, powers of attorneys, wills. I think there's a fourth document we should probably touch on.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
The revocable trust.
Revocable
is
trust.
Huge. Even though Georgia is considered a probate-friendly state.
It's easier down here.
It is.
Yeah.
Certainly from, our state to the south, some other ones. But it definitely alleviates a huge burden on people stepping into the shoes of trustee and makes it more seamless. And that's something I think about with having young kids is if something happened to me, who would be the best person to step in for them to manage any assets that they're getting, but also are they going to have to wait the 6 to 9 months to go through probate to get those assets? And so that's why I went ahead and why I recommend for clients to implement a revocable trust and actually funding it, which means we change the account names to the name of the trust. It's all, some a little bit of
the trust becomes
stuff.
the owner.
Yeah, administrative stuff up front, but otherwise it makes it so much easier for the clients' families who have to come in, and something, and also for the clients because it's the same social security number. So it was sort of a no-brainer for me, and now we're just starting to implement it.
Yeah.
And you've practiced in other states, so
I have.
How does Georgia compare to other states? Because we do have clients who have property all over the world.
Well, a big reason to have a rev trust, other than what you've said, is if you own property in more than one state, or if you think you're going to own property in more than one state, which living in Georgia, I think, is most people who want a beach house, because you're not really going to get it in Georgia. You can get it in Florida or South Carolina.
Exactly.
So that's another reason to get a rev trust. It also makes it very easy to transfer from state to state. You might have to redo your Porvo will, but the terms of the trust should remain the same. So if you think you're likely to move throughout your career, your lifetime, it's another great tool to have.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, talking about travel, if you are adjusting your will, then you probably have to adjust your trust, because if you're changing your executors, your guardians, you're probably going to want to change your trustees.
Yes.
Yeah, because the trustees could be the people in charge of the assets that are being held in trust for your children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, and that's always a thing, definitely for parents, specifically traveling. Or even day to day, but I think that sort of hits them when they think, oh wait, this is the person who's going to be in charge of my children's assets as they until the age that they specify.